All right, so there's not a whole lot going on in the UFC right now. Not a lot to talk about. The next two fight nights are complete trash. At least the main events of the next two fight nights are garbage. I'll probably make a video tomorrow complaining and ranting about those. But for now, I just wanted to talk about a couple of fights that have been announced in the last couple of weeks that are not garbage. Those fights are Renato Moicano versus Benoit Saint Denis at lightweight, and a middleweight fight between Michel Pereira and Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. I think these are two really good fights that the UFC has recently announced. I'm really excited about both of them, and there's nothing else to talk about, so let's just talk about it. I'm going to start with Renato Moicano and Benoit Saint Denis. I really like Moicano. I'm a big Renato Moicano fan. I don't know how you couldn't be. The dude's super funny. He has the best post-fight interviews of any fighter. He's got a fun style. I think everybody likes him. He's an OG. He's a veteran. He's fought for a long time. He's got some good wins. He's got a lot of losses as well. He's been around for a long time. Benoit Saint Denis, he's definitely newer, more of an up-and-coming prospect. Of course, coming off of a loss to Dustin Poirier, getting finished, but having honestly a very good performance in that fight before getting finished, while having staph infection. I know there's a lot of controversy. Some people think that affected the fight. Some people think it didn't. I personally think that it did. Anyways, Moicano versus Saint Denis. I do think, as much as I like Moicano and as much as I'm rooting for Moicano to get the win, I think Benoit is probably going to knock him out in the first round. I just think that Benoit Saint Denis, the dude's a complete bulldozer. He's like, outside of maybe Michael Chandler, he's probably the hardest guy to deal with in the first round at lightweight. Like I said, he's just a bulldozer. The dude goes out there every fight and he just throws himself at his opponent in the first round. You go back to his fight with Ishmael Bonfim a few fights back. I mean, he opened up that fight, and Ishmael Bonfim had a lot of hype going in this fight. I think he was a pretty big favorite, if I remember right. At least the hardcore fans were picking him because he had such a great debut against Terrence McKinney. Benoit goes out there and he throws like 15 hard body kicks, as hard as he can, right away. Just destroys Bonfim's body, destroys his arms from trying to block those hard body kicks, and then beats him up and ends up submitting him not too long into the fight. I want to say it was in the first round. It might have been in the second round though. And he head kick KO'd Matt Frevola. That was unfortunate. I'm a big Matt Frevola fan. And then has this great performance against Dustin Poirier. Oh, and he went to war with Thiago Moises. Took a lot of big shots, but ended up finishing Thiago Moises. The dude's just an animal, and I think Moicano's only real chance at beating Benoit Saint Denis is to survive that first round onslaught and probably a second round onslaught as well. Assuming Benoit doesn't come in with staph infection, I think we can assume he won't gas out as fast as he did in the Poirier fight. He looked exhausted after one round in the Poirier fight. I think he'll be fine in this fight if it goes past the first round, but I still think he's going to go out there guns blazing like he always does. And as much as I like Moicano, I mean, the dude doesn't have the best chin in the world. He gets dropped pretty often. He gets hurt in most of his fights. He's tough, but I mean, toughness doesn't determine whether or not you go to sleep, and I could see Moicano going to sleep in this fight or getting TKO'd pretty early on. Both of them can be kind of sloppy on the feet. Moicano's probably a little bit more technical with his striking, but I feel like he's not as dangerous with his striking. He doesn't have the power. He's not as fast. And in the grappling, Moicano, I mean, his jiu-jitsu's really good. He can always throw up a submission, but I'm going to give the control and the power, the strength, and the wrestling advantage to Benoit Saint Denis. I don't think this fight will even go to the ground. I don't think anybody's going to land a takedown. I think Benoit is probably going to come out there, go crazy, back Moicano up against the fence, throw a lot of really big punches, probably eat a couple coming in, but he'll survive it because Moicano doesn't have the craziest knockout power. And yeah, I think he'll just kind of melt Moicano against the fence, maybe knock him down and finish him with ground and pound in the first round. I definitely don't see it going past the first round, maybe the second. But if Moicano survives those first 2 rounds, I could see him turning it around because I believe this is a 5-round fight. I think it's the main event of a fight night. And if Moicano can survive the first 2, I could definitely see him winning the last 3 because Moicano's a really tough guy. If I remember right, in the RDA fight, he got beat up the whole fight, and then he was starting to come back in the 5th. Oh, man, I could be misremembering that totally wrong. Maybe he was getting beat up the whole 5th, but I feel like he was coming back in the 5th round. Yeah, Moicano's a tough guy. He's got good cardio. He can go 5 rounds. He can tough it out. He's a veteran. He can always find a way. But I think Benoit Saint Denis, he's on the way up. Moicano, as much as I would like to think he's on the way up, and he'll make some crazy title run, it just seems too good to be true. I think Benoit Saint Denis is going to finish him. First round TKO. And yeah, I think after that, Moicano will probably end up fighting like Paddy Pimblett if Pimblett beats Bobby Green, which I actually think is likely. I'm kind of leaning Paddy Pimblett to beat Bobby Green. I know that sounds crazy. And Benoit Saint Denis, maybe he'll move on to fight someone like Mateusz Gamrot, or I could see him fighting a Saryukian if Saryukian loses to Islam Makhachev, or maybe even a Charles Oliveira or something like that. Anyways, I'm really excited about that fight. The other one, Michel Pereira, or however you say his name, Pereira, the crazy wild middleweight that used to be a welterweight, versus Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. Fluffy, he's coming off of a win over Roman Kopylov. I believe that was his last fight. Looked great in that fight. I thought that fight was going to be super close. It felt like a pick'em to me going into it, and he very clearly won. It wasn't that close at all. He pretty much dominated Kopylov the whole fight, ate a couple shots, but nothing too crazy. Yeah, Fluffy's just got great wrestling. He's got great pressure. He has great cardio. He has great finishing ability. He has great killer instinct, good control. He's a really good middleweight, really good upcoming middleweight. I think both these guys are really good middleweights working their way up. I think they're both going to be long-time staples of the top 10. Michel Pereira coming off of a win over, I believe, Ihor Peteria, right? That was his last fight, where he just brutally finished him in the first round after he did a backflip and stepped on his face. It's probably not allowed, but it didn't matter. He got the win. I think he subbed him after that. Yeah, he choked him out, I'm pretty sure. Michel Pereira, since coming up to middleweight, man, he's looked crazy. He was always kind of a bit of a win one, lose one welterweight fighter. He didn't go on any like super crazy impressive streaks at welterweight. He was really fun to watch, but the dude went to like a split decision with Nico Price, and that's not good. You know, Nico Price hasn't been looking too hot lately. Nico Price went to a draw with Cowboy Cerrone when Cowboy Cerrone was an old, crippled man. Going to a split decision with that guy is not good. Losing the third round to that guy, not good. But since going to middleweight, Pereira has just been destroying everybody. I think that just kind of goes to show that most of the middleweight roster isn't very good. There's a huge skill gap between welterweights and middleweights. And I am curious to see if that is shown in this fight as well. I don't think it will be, though. I think this is actually going to be a pretty competitive fight while it lasts. And I don't really know who to pick. I think this fight's much harder to pick than the Moicano and Saint Denis fight. You got to give the striking advantage to Pereira. He seems to have a striking advantage over most of these middleweights. Like I said, there's just a skill gap. There's just a skill gap between middleweight and welterweight. Really, there's a skill gap between just the heavier weight classes and the lighter weight classes generally. And he has crazy power. He can knock people out. He can drop you. He's a wild man. He's a crazy athlete. He's huge. I don't know how he ever made welterweight. He's massive. I'm going to be curious to see the size difference between these guys. I imagine Pereira is going to be a much larger man, at least much denser. Maybe even if they're the same size, Pereira is just, he's absolutely jacked. I can't believe he was a welterweight. That dude looks like he could be a light heavyweight easily. So I wouldn't be surprised. My problem with Fluffy in this fight, as good as he is, as good as his cardio is, his pressure, his volume, his takedowns, his control, dude gets hit a lot. I feel like he just doesn't have the craziest defense. His defense is shooting a takedown, I feel like. And he's shown to have a really good chin, but I could see him getting cracked moving in on Michel Pereira, and Michel is just not a guy that you want to hit you. But I really don't know who I'm going to go with. I should have thought of this through before. I think I'm going to go with Fluffy. I think he'll survive the first round. I don't think he'll lose the first round. I should not say survive. This sounds too much like the St. Denis fight. I don't think he's going to necessarily survive the first round. I just believe that he'll be able to avoid getting cracked too bad when he's coming in. He might get hurt and cracked once, but I think he's going to push the wrestling really hard. And I think Michel Pereira, being such a big, muscular guy, after he has to grapple a lot, 1 round of grappling, 1.5 rounds of grappling, I think we're going to see him tire out a lot. We're going to see him get exhausted like he did against Nico Price. He lost the 3rd round against Nico Price because he got tired. I imagine he won't get tired super easily at middleweight. Maybe not. It's hard to say. With less of a weight cut, he might have much better stamina. But he's been getting all these first-round finishes, so we don't even know. But grappling drains people's cardio when they're not focused on grappling all the time, like a Covington is. Colby Covington has great grappling cardio, whereas some guys that strike all the time, they have really good cardio when they're striking, but once they have to grapple, they get tired. Their muscles get all filled up. They get like that pump, and they don't strike as good. They're slower. They don't carry the same power. I could see that happening with Michel Pereira. I could see Fluffy Anthony Hernandez controlling him and maybe making it a little bit boring early on, maybe not wanting to posture up and land too much ground and pound so that he doesn't let Pereira escape. And as Pereira gets more tired, Fluffy will start pouring on more and more ground and pound and maybe even sink in a submission. Probably not, though. I think I'm going to go with Anthony Hernandez getting a... I think there'll be a 30-27 scorecard and 2 29-28 scorecards. I think he's going to get hurt in 1 round, and a couple of the judges will give that round to Pereira. But overall, yeah, I'm going to go with Anthony Hernandez getting a decision win, mostly through the grappling, through the ground and pound, through the control time, avoiding the striking enough to not take too much damage like he did with Kopylov. Even though he struck very good with Kopylov, it's really hard to tell how good Kopylov is at this point because at times he looked amazing and at times he's looked not amazing. So it's hard to say with middleweight, man. Middleweight is... Marvin Vettori was top 5, It's hard to... Middleweight's a weird division. Marvin Vettori was top 5. He beat Paulo Costa. Paulo Costa at one point was seen to be one of the best middleweights. Everybody says Marvin Vettori sucks, but he beat Costa. Now everybody says Costa sucks. Strickland beat him in a really unimpressive fashion. Strickland was the champion that beat Adesanya, who knocked out Paulo Costa. MMA makes no sense. That's just how the sport is, Dricus du Plessis fights like he's never trained, and he's the champion. I like Dricus, but the dude swings like he's never trained a day in his life. He's the champion. He beat Whitaker. Whitaker should be, skill-wise the best guy in that division, but du Plessis beat him in 2 rounds. Yeah, MMA's weird. Anyways, that was kind of rambly. Yeah, let me know what you guys think of these fights. I got Benoit, first round, TKO, Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, decision win, unanimous. Tomorrow I think I'll make a video complaining about these next 2 women's main events because women's MMA is a joke. So yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.